How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Baseball Advice Show with your host, Alec Pecano. On Wednesday, April 2nd, it is not April Fool's Day anymore. I have no April Fool's jokes for you, but I do have a show for you. We will go over the player of the night from Tuesday, waiver wire ads, beat the breakout, four guys that you probably should add now before they break out, and a lot more. Why don't we get started with my player of the night from Tuesday? And that would be Rays starting pitcher Shane Baz. He went 6 innings, gave up 7 hits, didn't give up an earned run, didn't walk anybody, struck out 10. Now, and I said this on Monday's episode, if you need starting pitching help and Shane Baz is out there in your league, which he's available in half of leagues, I would recommend going out and adding him because he will help you. And if there's any way there's any Rays pitcher available, whether it be Baz, whether it be McClanahan, well, not McClanahan because he's hurt, but McClanahan's a good injury stash. But a guy like Pepio, if he's available, Baz, Rasmussen, Bradley, Littell, if any of them are available, highly recommend going out and adding them to your roster on the bench, or if you need somebody to step in and be a spot starter. Like, I have Baz in a couple leagues, and I started him last night, and he did really well. There is one thing I need to say. I should have told y'all to stay away from Chris Paddock, and I will get to that later on in the show. But Shane Baz did have a really good start. He had a lot of swings and misses. And next, we will get to the waiver wire. And the way the waiver wire works is it's guys that are less than 80% rostered in leagues. And normally it's 2 hitters, 2 pitchers. I have 3 hitters and a pitcher on the waiver wire to add today. And the first guy to add off the waiver wire is Blue Jays outfielder Alan Roden, only 1% rostered. If you need help in the outfield because you lost a guy like Josh Lowe or you lost Dalton Varsho who's out injured, a guy like Alan Roden is somebody I would recommend adding, and I will talk about another guy later on who I also think is a decently good add for the outfield and beat the breakout. But that's in a few minutes. Anyway, Roden, I don't know how much. If he continues to hit and get on base, he will be a guy you want to add. But if he struggles, strikes out a lot, he's in danger of losing his spot on the 26-man roster when the Blue Jays get Dalton Varsho back. The next guy I have on the waiver wire, if you need second base help, this guy looks like he's the real deal for the Marlins. And the Marlins have had a surprising start to 2025. It'll be Otto Lopez. He is 24% rostered. Roden, I think we need to get him up to at least 15% by next week. Otto Lopez, if you need help at second base, highly recommend adding Otto Lopez to your roster, as well as I think we need to get Otto Lopez up to 35% roster by next week. Once these guys hit 80%, over 80% rostered, they leave the waiver wire and we rotate in new guys. But that's number 2. Number 3 is Justin Martinez of the Diamondbacks. 67.2% rostered. So he's on the threshold of being 70% rostered. and being close to that mark of 80%. But I think if we could get him to, and is this a hard ask, 73 to 75% roster by next week? Can we, if you need relief pitching up, he's not the closer right now. That is AJ Puck, which I wouldn't mind adding AJ Puck either. If you can add both of them, go ahead, because then you get the guy that comes in the 8th and you get the guy that comes in the 9th inning. Because Kevin Ginkel is on the injured list right now. And he was probably going to be the 7th, 8th inning guy. It looks like Justin Martinez is that the 8th inning man right now for the Diamondbacks, with a combination of other guys in the 7th inning. But if you can add Puck or Justin Martinez, highly recommended if you need help in the bullpen with your relief pitching. And the last waiver wire player I have is Brandon Lau of the Tampa Bay Rays, who's been off to a hot start. And he, for the most part, I think he's going to have a big season in Steinbrenner Field for the Rays. I really do. He is only 14.5% rostered. He's another guy, if you need second base help because you had Nick Gonzalez, or you have somebody like a Christian Campbell who's moving around the end, who's kind of that utility piece for the Red Sox right now, I would highly recommend adding Brandon Lau, who has been ranking to start the year. And I could see a avenue where Lau hits 25 to 30 home runs on the year this year if he can stay fully healthy. And he should get some time at DH eventually after Yandy Diaz decides whether he wants to play first base. We will get to my Beat the Breakout candidates here in a second, but some news and notes. The Padres have signed star center fielder Jackson Merrill to a 9-year, $103 million extension. And I like this re-signing for the extension for the Padres. Merrill's been really good, and he should not be available in any of your leagues. If he is, and you need help in the outfield, go ahead and add him. I also think that if Clark Schmidt is out there, and if you have any questions, put them down in the comments and I will answer them. But Clark Schmidt, if he's out there in your league and you have a spot on your injured list, your IL, go ahead and add Clark Schmidt. He should be added in every league. I know he's well under that 80% roster threshold. Go ahead and add him. He's making 2 more rehab starts, and it sounds like middle of April is when he's going to be back on the Yankees. The next guy is... The next one is... There's no update on Josh Lowe yet. So until further notice, if you have Josh Lowe, just keep him on your IL. And then... Now we get to my stash before breakout section. And the first guy, and you get 4 guys on here. The first one is White Sox starting pitcher / reliever. He is Spark eligible on ESPN if that's the site you play on. It is Shane Smith of the White Sox, 2.2% rostered. He had a really good start last night, going 5 2/3 innings of shutout baseball. And of course, the White Sox bullpen blew it. He had a chance for his first big league win, and the bullpen blew it for the White Sox. But I see a potential breakout here for Shane Smith. And if you need help with your rotation, or you just need somebody that's Spark eligible, go ahead and add Shane Smith and stash him before he fully breaks out. Number 2, Cardinal starting pitcher / reliever. Another Spark eligible guy, Matthew Liberatore, who had a really good start last night. 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings, 4 strikeouts. I like what I saw from Liberatore. He is only 1.6% rostered. Again, if you need starting pitching help or you need somebody that's a spark and you could put him in your lineup, and then when he's on the mound starting, you can move him out of the relief pitcher spot and put him in your rotation. Go ahead and pick up Matthew Liberatore. Third is Guardians designated hitter Kyle Manzardo. 19.9% rostered. Again, that is 19.9% rostered. Right now, you can only play him in your utility unless he ends up picking up first base eligibility, which, to be honest, I have zero idea when that's going to happen because right now he's only been at DH because they got 39-year-old Carlos Santana at first base. Maybe later on in the season is when they put a guy like Manzardo at first base. They also have another guy that I like that I think you can stash on your bench before he ends up breaking out, and that is Junkinsey Noel, a.k.a. Big Christmas. One of the best nicknames in baseball, in the world of professional baseball. And my last stash before breakout is Rays outfielder Jake Mangum. He has had an impressive, and he's only 1.2% rostered. He's had an impressive start to his big league career with the Rays. Didn't make the team out of camp. He went down to the minors. He was only there for about a day and a half until he got called up by the Rays. And all he's done since getting called up is mash. If you need somebody that can get you hits, get you stolen bases, drive in runs, score runs, that is Jake Mangum. And I think one of these days he's going to hit his first major league home run. Maybe today against the Pirates off of Paul Skeens. And now we get to the sad part of the show. These are guys that I think you need to, I'm not going to say consider dropping, but just bench because they've been struggling to start the season. Yandy Diaz is one. And I have Yandy in a couple leagues. He's batting 131 to start the season. Maybe he's trying to get used to DH, like another guy I'm going to talk about in a second. But I think Yandy is, you can't drop Yandy. You just got to put him on your bench and wait till he breaks out of this little mini slump he's in. Same thing goes for Rafael Devers. Unless you want to sell super low on him this early in the season, you're not going to get a big return from him if you try to trade him right now. I would recommend these first two guys that I'm talking about. Hold them on your bench and see what happens. The next guy is David Bednar of the Pirates. He was supposed to be their closer this year. He struggled to start the year. They sent him down to AAA. I don't think that entails you to drop David Bednar unless you could find a guy like a Jeff Hoffman on your waiver wire, Emilio Pagan, somebody like that. That's the only way, or Pete Fairbanks if he's out there. Or maybe one of the other Rays relievers at Mason Montgomery. Or Mason Englert. Or Kevin Kelly. That's the only way I would drop a guy like Bednar. If Bednar, if you can't find anybody to pick up for Bednar, I would advise stashing him on your bench, especially if you have a deep bench and you have the ability to keep, or if you have if you play in a league that has an NA spot, go ahead and put a guy like David Bednar in that NA spot so that doesn't take up a roster spot. Because I know ESPN, I don't think does it. I know Yahoo does. I know Fantrax does. So the two sites I know for a fact that do it. And then the last one, and this is a tough one because I had high expectations for him coming into the season after signing with the Rays. It is Danny Jansen. I think Danny Jansen is going to turn it around at some point. I don't know when, but I think he turns it around. And we see the Danny Jansen we saw with Toronto and the Red Sox last year. Don't drop Danny Jansen unless you can find a better catcher. Maybe a Ivan Herrera. Maybe a Connor Wong. Maybe Yainer Diaz if he's available in your league. But other than that, I would not consider dropping Danny Jansen. Just put him on your bench, and if you have a backup catcher, put that catcher in. We do offer memberships here with this YouTube channel, the Sports Nation YouTube channel. The cheapest membership is 99 cents a month. The most expensive membership is $9.99 a month. Highly recommend purchasing a membership. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend doing it. You will not regret it. There's different tiers. There's different perks that come along with the membership. Also, there is a merch shop that is linked below. If you want to buy some merch, we highly recommend it. Me and my co-host of the two podcasts that I run with him, the Sports Nation podcast and the College Football podcast. And the podcast we will be starting, the renamed Dugout Discussions podcast that re-debuts as the Dugout Discussions podcast on Tuesday of next week will be the first episode of the Dugout Discussions podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, and you can find last night's Sports Nation podcast on YouTube and also on the NGSC Sports website. Go give the NGSC Sports website a peek. You will see all the podcasts from the two podcasts I did with Bradley. And you can see he writes for the USF Bulls. He also writes for the Clearwater Thrashers. Go give that a look. But for Alec Pecano, I am signing off of the Fantasy Baseball Advice podcast. If you have any other questions, please leave them down in the comments. I will look at them and I will do my best to reply. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. And I will see, if you don't know, I do have a TikTok that I post on and go live on. So I will be going live on there most likely tonight around probably 10 o'clock. Come and join. It's a fun time. Trying to build up this community and my TikTok community. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday.